What the hell are you doing in my house?
Imagine a neighbor so obsessed with control that she's willing to weaponize 911 just to get inside your house. Not because she saw anything, but because she wanted power over a family that owed her nothing. But what she didn't know was that the 911 call she made was going to backfire on her in the most brutal way possible. The Black family had barely lived in the neighborhood for 3 weeks when Marlene Boyd decided they were her new project. Trey Collins and his wife, Rhea Collins, moved into the house after Eric and Lydia Danner sold it in frustration, driven out by the same woman now stalking Trey's driveway every other morning with a clipboard and a look of entitlement carved into her face. The house wasn't under any HOA. The real estate agent said it. The documents proved it. The previous owners warned them clearly. She tried to force us into the HOA. We refused. She made our lives hell until we sold. Trey thought they were exaggerating. They weren't. Marlene showed up on day 3. No greeting, no welcome, just a shove of a binder to Trey's chest and a fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. You'll need to replace this mailbox. It violates our HOA standards. Trey didn't argue. He pointed out the boundary line. He showed her the paperwork. He explained calmly that his property was not and never had been under HOA jurisdiction. Marlene ignored every word and walked away like he'd just inconvenienced her. The next day, a violation notice appeared on the mailbox. The day after, she returned with a tape measure. Then came complaints about porch bulbs, lawn height, door color, anything she could invent. The truth that Trey didn't know yet was simple. Marlene had a key. Eric and Lydia Danner gave it to her years ago in case of emergencies, and she never returned it. When they sold the house, Marlene kept the key. She told no one. She assumed she'd need it again. And now that Trey and Rhea refused to bow to her imaginary authority, she planned to use it. Trey finally put up a small security gate, just a keypad and simple metal bars, nothing dramatic. It was enough to keep Marlene off their property. But it made her furious. She demanded the gate code. She claimed community inspection rights. She threatened non-existent HOA penalties. Trey saved every voicemail. By the 3rd week, she wasn't even pretending to follow rules. She wanted control. She wanted obedience. And she wanted inside their house. Standing at the gate one afternoon, staring at Trey's home with pure hatred simmering in her eyes, Marlene made the decision that pushed everything over the edge. If they wouldn't let her in, she'd let herself in. And she already had the key. Marlene waited until the perfect opening, when Trey's car pulled out of the driveway and Rhea's car followed 10 minutes later. The house was empty. The street was quiet, and Marlene was done pretending to follow any rules but her own. She walked straight to the gate, glanced around, and muttered, "You think you can shut me out?" Then she pulled out the key she'd kept hidden for years. But before she used it, she played her real card. Marlene called 911. Her voice was shaky, dramatic, and full of fake concern. "I'm hearing screaming coming from 1192 Brookline Court," she said. "They won't answer the door, and I'm really worried someone's hurt." She hung up with a satisfied smile. That was her shield. If anyone questioned why she was inside the house, she'd claim she broke in to save someone. She believed she was untouchable, but what she didn't know, what she couldn't have predicted, was who heard that call. Officer Rhea Collins, the wife of the Black homeowner, the same home Marlene just made a false report about, a sworn, fully trained, uniformed police officer. She recognized the address instantly. Rhea was already in her cruiser when the call came through, heading back to the precinct from a routine patrol. The second she heard the fake report, she flipped her lights off, hit the gas, and rerouted straight home. Have you ever dealt with someone who gets drunk on fake authority and tries to control things that don't belong to them? What would you do if that person went so far they actually broke into your house? Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. And if you believe in standing up to people who abuse power, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc. Because some battles aren't about houses at all. They're about refusing to let bullies run your life. Marlene, meanwhile, strolled right up to the front door. She glanced left and right, saw no neighbors watching, and slid the key into the lock like she'd done it 1,000 times. The door opened smoothly. She stepped inside. No hesitation, no authorization, just pure entitlement. She began taking photos of the entryway. Documenting violations, she whispered to herself, like she was building a case no one asked for. She walked into the living room, opened a cabinet, peeked into a hallway. She wasn't inspecting. She was snooping. When she finished snooping and took one last picture, this time of the hallway, she walked back toward the front door with the confidence of someone who believed she had played the system perfectly. She twisted the knob, opened the door, and stopped dead. Officer Rhea Collins stood on the porch, uniform on, badge shining, squad car parked behind her. Their eyes met. Marlene's entire body locked up. Rhea didn't wait. Her voice was steel. "Marlene Boyd, did you just break into my home?" Marlene's face drained of color instantly. Huh. Marlene didn't speak. She couldn't. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Just a trembling inhale as she stared at Rhea's uniform like it was the end of her world. Rhea stepped forward slowly, one hand resting on her duty belt, the other lifting to point at the open door behind Marlene. "Inside," Rhea said sharply. "Now." Marlene backed up automatically, stumbling as Rhea guided her into the living room she had just finished snooping through. The officer closed the door behind them with a quiet click. "Hands where I can see them," Rhea ordered. Marlene lifted her hands, shaking violently. "I heard screaming," she blurted out. "I was checking for an emergency. I was trying to help." Rhea cut her off. "You reported screaming at my house when no one was home. You entered using a key you should not have, and you're walking around my living room taking photos." Her tone didn't rise. It didn't need to. Every word landed like a slap. "You weren't helping anyone." Marlene's excuses collapsed instantly. Her voice cracked. "It's not what it looks like." "It's exactly what it looks like," Rhea said. She lifted her radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12. Be advised we have a confirmed false report and a burglary in progress at my residence. Send backup." The radio crackled back. "Copy, Unit 12. Units en route. ETA 3 minutes. Marlene's knees buckled. Burglary?" She choked. No, I'm the HOA president. I'm allowed to inspect." "You're allowed nothing in this house," Rhea snapped. "This property is not under any HOA. And even if it were, HOA presidents don't get keys to private homes." Marlene's eyes widened. She knew she was done. Rhea walked behind her and pulled out her cuffs. "You entered without permission, you used a stolen key, and you triggered emergency services with a fake report." Click. One cuff locked. "That is breaking and entering." Click. The second cuff secured. "That is criminal trespass." Rhea tightened them firmly. "And filing a false emergency call." Marlene started to cry. Not loud sobs, but panicked, pathetic whimpers. Please. Can we talk about this?" "No," Rhea said. "Turn around and walk." Marlene shuffled toward the front door in cuffs, her body shaking, her face streaked with tears. Rhea stayed behind her, calm and solid. As the door opened, neighbors were already gathering outside, staring. Marlene's humiliation had only begun. By the time Rhea walked Marlene out onto the porch, 2 patrol cars were already pulling up, lights flashing silently, no sirens. The neighbors across the street froze mid-conversation, every pair of eyes locked onto one sight. Marlene Boyd, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, standing in handcuffs on the porch of the very house she had tried to control. The backup officers stepped out, Officer Turner Blake and Officer Lewis Grant. "Officer Collins, you good?" Turner asked. "Yeah," Rhea said calmly. "Suspect entered my home with a stolen key and filed a false report." Marlene snapped, desperation bursting out of her. "I had authority. I'm the HOA president. I was conducting an inspection." Officer Grant looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "This house isn't under your HOA," he said flatly. Marlene froze. Her lips trembled. That's not true. I heard screaming." Turner cut her off. "Ma'am, dispatch replayed your call. There were no screams. You reported a fake emergency to justify illegally entering someone's home. That's a felony." Marlene's face fell apart. Her knees buckled, and Rhea grabbed her arm to keep her from collapsing entirely. "Put her in the cruiser," Rhea said. They escorted Marlene down the walkway, neighbors whispering, phones raised, documenting the downfall of the woman who had tormented the block for years. She begged, cried, pleaded. None of it mattered. "Please, it was a misunderstanding. Please, I didn't mean." "You meant every second of it," Rhea said, "and you've done it before." They placed Marlene in the back of the patrol car. The door shut with a final, heavy thump. Minutes later, Rhea stood with the officers giving her statement. She's been trying to force my family under the HOA since we moved here, Rhea explained. We have voicemails, notices, photos, weeks of harassment. Today she escalated. She broke in. The officers nodded. The case was airtight. Marlene was transported downtown, booked for breaking and entering, criminal trespass, filing a false police report, misuse of emergency services. Word spread fast. That night, the HOA board called an emergency meeting and unanimously removed Marlene from her position. Turns out she'd harassed half the neighborhood. No one defended her. A restraining order was issued the next morning. She was banned from coming within 100 feet of Trey and Rhea Collins's home. The locks were changed. The house was finally safe. And for the first time since moving in, the family slept in peace. Marlene's reign ended exactly where it belonged, in the back of a police cruiser. If you believe justice hits hardest when it finally lands where it's deserved, smash that like button and subscribe to Story Arc.